Welcome, everyone. I'm Sandeep, and today we're diving deep into a topic that touches almost every corner of the world but isn't often discussed openly. We're talking about how drugs impact a country's economy. It's a topic loaded with complex issues, unexpected twists, and real-life consequences.
Absolutely. This is going to be an eye-opener. Drugs and the economy don't seem like they should be connected, but there's a pretty intricate relationship between the two.
Alright, Dr. T, let's start from the top. How does something like drug trafficking or drug production even impact a country's economy? Great question, Sandeep. The impact is layered. At a surface level, the drug trade can generate a lot of money, billions of dollars, actually. But it doesn't benefit the economy the way other industries might. The revenue from drug sales isn't reinvested in education or infrastructure, for instance. So, you're saying that, in some ways, it's money that's there, but also, not really.
Exactly. While there's money changing hands, most of it either goes underground or ends up in offshore accounts. And on the flip side, governments spend millions trying to combat drug trade on law enforcement, health care, and rehabilitation. So, it's like a huge chunk of the economy is siphoned off for this fight.
Fascinating. It's like the economy has these hidden flows of cash that are hard to track and control. Now, I have to ask, what about countries that have legalized certain drugs, like marijuana? Does it actually help their economy?
Great question. In cases of legalizing and regulating certain drugs, like marijuana, the economy actually benefits. Legalization introduces a new, taxable revenue stream, for instance, in states across the U.S. Where marijuana is legal, they're making billions of dollars in taxes. Plus, you get job creation in production, distribution, and retail.
So it's almost like a paradox. Illegal drugs harm the economy, but if you make some of them legal, they actually help.
Haha, exactly. But it's not that simple. When drugs are legalized, governments have to regulate and control them properly. If they don't, you end up with overuse, addiction issues, and social problems that also cost the state money.
That's really insightful, Dr. T. Now, what about drug addiction? Does it affect a country's workforce in any measurable way?
Oh, definitely. Drug addiction has a huge impact on workforce productivity. For example, in countries dealing with high addiction rates, absenteeism spikes, people are less efficient at work, and healthcare costs skyrocket. It's like a double-edged sword for businesses and the government.
And is there any data on how this affects GDP?
Absolutely. According to recent studies, addiction costs the U.S. alone hundreds of billions of dollars in lost productivity. Imagine that ripple effect: reduced workforce output, increased healthcare spending, and more.
That's staggering. It's like the entire economy is carrying the weight of addiction on its shoulders. So, let's talk about something a bit darker: corruption and crime. How does drug money feed into that side of things?
This is where things get particularly grim. Drug money often fuels organized crime and corruption. Politicians and officials can be bribed to look the other way, and drug cartels may exert power over entire communities or governments.
It almost sounds like the economy becomes dependent on these shady dealings, and it's a vicious cycle.
That's exactly it. This cycle erodes the rule of law, which is vital for a stable economy. Investors pull back from areas with high crime rates and weak institutions, which limits economic growth even more.
I never realized just how far-reaching the impact of the drug trade could be. Alright, let's break this down with some examples. Which countries show us different sides of the story?
That's exactly it. This cycle erodes the rule of law, which is vital for a stable economy. Investors pull back from areas with high crime rates and weak institutions, which limits economic growth even more.
And in recent years,
they've worked to turn things around, with peace agreements and eradication programs, Colombia has improved. The economy is stabilizing, but drug production is still an issue.
What about places that legalize drugs, like Portugal?
Portugal's an interesting case. They decriminalized drugs in 2001, focusing on treatment instead of punishment. This approach improved public health, reduced HIV rates, and surprisingly, reduced drug-related crime, which has made the economy a bit healthier overall.
So, decriminalization can work if it's coupled with healthcare and education. As we wrap up, what do you think the future holds? Will drugs always be this tangled part of economies?
I think so, in some way or another, but with shifts towards legalization and decriminalization, and hopefully better education, there's a chance to redirect some of these impacts. Ultimately, it depends on policy changes and societal attitudes.
It's a long road, but we can get there.
Exactly. It takes time and the right decisions.
Well, that was an incredible conversation. Thanks for joining me, Dr. T. You've definitely given us a lot to think about.
Anytime. Sandeep, glad to be here.
And that's all for today, folks. Let us know in the comments, do you think countries should legalize more drugs, or is the risk too high? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into issues that shape our world.